Welcome back to Arise and Shine. Today we are delving into a topic that hits close to home for so many of us: trusting God through uncertain times. Trusting God through uncertain times. If you've ever faced challenges that left you feeling really lost, left you feeling anxious, left you feeling even hopeless, this message is for you. You stay tuned because we're going to be unpacking some of the timeless biblical wisdom, some life experiences, and actionable steps that can help you navigate uncertain times with unwavering faith. So let's start with the question of what do we mean by really trusting God? You know, trusting God is easy when life is going all right. Trusting God is easy when your prayers are all being answered and you know what tomorrow holds, you know what's about your next meal, your career, and everything seems all right. But trusting God during uncertain times, it's not really about ignoring your reality. It's not really making light of your situation. It's really about choosing faith over fear when life feels really out of control. And I want us to go back to the good book, and in Proverbs 3 from verse 5 and 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In everything or in all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. Tell me about path straight. Your path will be really crooked sometimes. You don't know what tomorrow holds. You wake up in tears, go back to bed in tears. The question is, how do we really apply this when we are living in so much uncertainty? So I just want to, in this video, encourage you with three steps that can actually help us, try and apply this, because trust me, I have been there on certain times when you don't know what you are stepping into. You're stepping out and you don't know what you are stepping into, but you are like, I just have to leave the situation. And what tomorrow holds, I don't know, but I just trust that it's going to be better than where I am right now. So we will look at these three steps. We need to look at, how do you remember, what does God say about you? What's God's promise? What's God promise? How do we embrace His timing? How do we take actions in faith? So s- let's talk about remembering God's promise. The Bible is full of promises. Promises. When times are so uncertain, you need to go back to the good book and you need to be able to look at, what are some of the promises for me for this season? What is the Bible telling me about this season? Talk about God's faithfulness. If we look at a very one of my all-time favorite, Jeremiah 29 and in verse 11, which says, for I know the plans that I have for you. I know the plans of prosperity, plans not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. And sometimes you're like, come on, God, it doesn't really look like I'm having any future here, any hope, any prosperity. Everything around me speaks to the contrary. But there are countless stories. If I were to share personal testimonies, there would be countless of really holding on to God's promises, because guess what? His promises are true. His promises are sure. He says, my word comes out and it fulfills its purpose. So it doesn't really matter. If God said it, so shall it be. Um, there is a great story I read about the Great Depression, where a man that was called George Muller, he was running an orphanage during that time, helping thousands of children. And one morning, what happened? There was no food for the children. I mean, thousands of kids that are depending on their daily bread at this orphanage, no food. But instead of him waking up that morning and crying and saying there is no food, I mean, he just woke up and thanked God and said, God, we just thank you for provision. You are Jehovah Jireh. You provide all the time. And what happened? Few moments later, this is a real life story. A baker knocked at the door with enough bread to feed everyone. While he was praying, God was preparing a baker to come by. And it didn't even take long. On the same day, what happened? A milk truck broke down outside the orphanage. I mean, how could this not be God event? The milk truck broke out, and in order to ensure that they don't let the milk expires before they take out the truck, they asked them, could you get some milk? Could you get some milk so that we don't let this milk expire, as we need to move this truck out of here. And what happened? They had bread, they had milk for the day, just by a simple act of being grateful. And there are countless events. I could share countless personal testimonies. So it's important to take a moment even today as you are watching this video to think about 1, 2, 3 promises in scripture that resonates with you. Keep them somewhere visible and daily remind God. Say, God, you said you are the one who provide. I'm trusting you for provision for my family. I mean, sometimes you can even go crazy. You open your fridge and there is nothing inside, and you just thank God. Oh, I'm thanking you for provision because I know my daily bread is there, and it doesn't look like it, but you are grateful because you know surely God will come through. Write those promises and continue to remind God about them. The next one is that, I mean, this is a hard part of it, embracing his timing. Talk about timing. I mean, we all act like children. I mean, little kids, they want something and they want it now. Because why? Waiting is hard. Waiting is hard for kids, waiting is hard for adults, and especially when you are waiting for a breakthrough. I mean, you've been through the mountains, you've been through the fires, your career has been in circles. Life just feels like you are trapped and you really want to break loose. You are waiting for this breakthrough and it becomes really hard. But the Bible tells us in Isaiah 40 and in verse 31 that those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They will soar up with wings as eagles. They would run and they would not grow weary. They would walk and they would not faint. And sometimes it's just like a passage. I remember many years back. There was a day when this scripture was so real to me for the first time. I mean, I was a student back then at university, and I felt so overwhelmed. I felt things were just falling apart. And I just made a stop at my pastor's house that evening and sat in my pastor's office, and I was just pouring out to him how everything was going. And he just reminded me of Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 31. And he was like, Vivian, everything will be all right. Keep waiting on the Lord. And ever since, this verse just keeps resonating with me. I mean, if you think about Joseph in the Bible, you look at a lifestyle of someone who one day he has a dream or vision, he's going to be great, and before you know it, he's in a pit. Before you know it, he's been betrayed by his very loved own brothers. I mean, before you know it, he's serving as a servant, then he's in jail for crimes he did not commit. But what happened at the appointed time? At the appointed time, just he left the prison, you could say with criminal records, and he is a leader. Just why? Because it was God's own time for him. So sometimes the waiting season is where God prepares us for the blessing, because you could say all through his life he was being prepared. He was being prepared. So when you begin to think about waiting, I'm sure in your personal life, you could begin to think of some times where waiting has been hard, and it's okay. You can share in the comments below. You could comment. Let's encourage each other with testimonies of God's perfect timing, because this thing, it's real. It's real. And the third thing I want us to look at, how we trust God, what we can do, trust in God. And in times of uncertainty, it's taking actions in faith. I mean, on all my videos, the keyword is action. The keyword is always action. I'll give you steps, I'll give you strategy, I will talk, but at the end of the day, the keyword is action. Faith is not passive, faith is active. And that's why the book of James 2 and in verse 26 says, faith without works is dead. While trusting God for an outcome, we are also called to take steps forward, even when the path ahead is not clear. I mean, you trust in God to become a medical doctor. You need to take steps and do research and enroll yourself into a medical school. You need to take steps. You trust in God to help you in business. You need to register your business. You need to take steps. You need to go out there. I mean, think about the Bible telling us about Peter walking on water. Sometimes it feels like water. If I step on that water, will I sink? What will happen? And sometimes, guess what? Like Peter, you just step on the water, it becomes, God just makes the water underneath to just harden like a rock, and you can walk all through. But you need to step on the water, because you would not know whether you would be able to walk or not. And even if you sink, like, I mean, Peter started walking, and before you know it, he took his eyes off Jesus. And what happened to him? He began to sink. But what happened? Jesus helped him out, and that's what happens. You step out in faith, even when fears will make you to make mistakes. You take your eyes off Jesus. God honors us whenever we step out in faith, no matter how small your steps are. So I hope you begin to identify the areas of your life where you can take steps in faith today, where you can take steps even in the uncertainty that you are living in. Maybe it's applying to a new job. Maybe it's reaching out to mend broken relationships, or simply praying for a miracle. Take steps to trust God to guide you even when the road is blurry. I hope this has been useful. Here's the truth. Uncertainty is part of life, but so is God's faithfulness too. It's part of life. So we need to trust God, and that doesn't mean that we will always understand his ways. But what this means is that we can have peace knowing that He's in control. You can have peace knowing God is in control. So if this message was an encouragement to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might need to remind themselves, who might be out there and need to trust God in this season. And before you hit go button, so try and subscribe to Arise and Shine family, and keep trusting God in all seasons. Until next time, keep trusting God, keep walking in faith, keep arising and shining.